So obviously
Hey, Ellen.
Hey.
Hey, Portia's on, who was our translator, for
Great.
our interpreter, excuse me, for tonight. And then we have about 4 families on as well. So whenever you're ready to rock and roll, we're ready.
I'm gonna share my screen right now. Thanks for your support, Katie.
Yeah, of course.
And we're supposed to start at 5:30, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna get on my phone. I'll get on my phone at 5:30 or 5:29,
Okay.
and I'll take myself off video if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bye.
Friday night, feeling alright. Running around hunting on the brightest light. Doesn't even matter if we run out of money. All night chasing down the brightest light. Fireside with some friends of mine. Back porch sipping on a jug of wine. That's how we stay young and how we keep our eyes sunny. All night sipping on a jug of wine. Old man doing what he can. Woke up sleeping in a garbage can. What do you do when you run out of money? Spend your whole life hunting down the brightest light. Hitchhike, riding a bike. I think I heard something about real life. We do what we can to stay away from there, honey. We're running and we're running. We're running and we're running. Friday night, feeling alright. Running round, hunting down the brightest light. Doesn't even matter if we run out of money. All night chasing down the brightest light. Friday night, feeling alright. Running round, hunting down the brightest light. Doesn't even matter if we run out of money. All night chasing down the brightest light. Missing the days when my shadow was a friend. Tiny hands, tiny feet, and bright eyes. While things don't need to know everything. A blank slate, freedom from it all. Oh, the times when time meant nothing. The past, present, and future unknown. Rolling with the punches and the waves as they come, day by day, freedom from it all. Wild things and wild dreams, unbridled beating heart. dreams, unbridled, beating hearts. Yeah, I trade all my silver and gold to be wild things and wild dreams, unbridled, beating hearts. Yeah, traded all, I traded everything to be a wild thing. It smells like hot whiskey in a cold, cold room. You started to miss me a bit too soon. I don't leave till sunrise. Come sit beside me on this bed. Give me your trouble. Give me your number, and I'll call you while I'm gone. It's a long way to California. It's a long way from your side. It's a long way to California. And the farther I get from you, the harder it gets to enjoy the ride. There's some kind of mystery behind your eyes. It starts with hello and stays through goodbye. I don't need you to fix me. Come sit beside me on this bed. Give me your troubles. Give me your number, and I'll call you while I'm gone.
All right, well, welcome. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed some heavy diamond ring with the famous and also local Mike Lang, high school music teacher and professional musician, performing with his amazing group there. We're going to get started on time. We are recording this, and so if anything happens that's too quick or somebody misses the beginning, it will be posted for you all. Thought we'd start with a little light humor here. I can certainly say, as a parent of a student who's going into ECE ? That I've made this face many times, and it's a good look for me. So hopefully you'll get to enjoy that a little bit tonight, and just want to acknowledge that it's a complicated time, and we're all in it together. So there will be question and answer time at the end. We should hopefully have about half an hour for Q&A. This is again recorded in case something happens too quickly, or you just really enjoyed it so much that you want to come back and watch it again. And we do have interpretation, and so that's posted in the chat. There is a number to call in for Spanish interpretation. So I'm sure this is top of mind for all of you and is a lot of why you logged in tonight, and certainly been the question we have been trying to answer for the last few months, which is just like, what will school look like this fall? And hopefully by the end of this call, you'll have a clearer picture of that as we move into that reality on Monday. I do want to just note, and this is a big part of the reality that we're in, everything is constantly changing. Things that I knew 24 hours ago are probably going to be different 24 hours from now. And we are committed to keeping you abreast of the most up-to-date information that we have as we get it, and are very much hoping that the ability and the call by DPS to allow us to be fully remote through the first part of the year is going to minimize some of those constant changes. And want to just recognize that we likely will be shifting our approach after October, and so want to just be open-minded about what that looks like, and we're committed to keeping you in the loop. So here's kind of a broad overview of what we're going to cover tonight. I want to just name that there is a lot of information that is going to come at you, and the hope is that it kind of hits the big things that are on a lot of people's minds, the big questions that we've been getting from our community over the past few weeks. And just want to acknowledge that there is a lot of information. We're essentially building a new school online, and so we want to make sure that you have all of the information that we can give you at this point in time, and then also really clear points of contact if you aren't clear about something by the time we're through tonight. So we are also going to introduce ourselves. One of the hardest things about being remote is not being able to be with people in person and build relationships that way. And so you'll notice that there's quite a few folks on the panel tonight. And my hope is this is also a time for you to just get a little bit of a feel for our team and understand who we are a little bit, and also know who to reach out to. So I'm Ellen Curry. If you haven't met me yet, I am our school director for our 612 campus. A little bit about me. I am married to a wonderful husband and cyclist named Kevin, who's up there on the top left. Below that is me and Franz, who is here tonight, enjoying our first ever graduation at the Denver Mart Drive-In last spring, which is certainly not something that I will soon forget, and was a pretty pivotal moment for me as an educator and a member of this community, and just a huge, huge moment for our school. I'm a mother of two, so Jane is there in the middle. She just turned 4 2 weeks ago, and Ruth is over on the right-hand side. She's 1.5. And then on the bottom are 2 of my 8 or so pets, Quattro and Oscar, in the literal singular time that they snuggled like that. So glad I got it on camera. I hope that we have time to get to know each other beyond kind of the education space this year. I really appreciate and just value all of the families that come into our community, and just want to resonate that we're all people going through this, and that's really hard. So glad to be able to go through it with you all. I'm just going to frame a little bit as we start what is going on with eSchool and what our kind of vision is for this. And so at the core of eSchool, just like everything we have always done here at Byers, is our mission. That has not changed. We are still committed to ending educational inequity and absolutely transforming urban public education. And this is actually a huge opportunity for us to do that in ways that weren't necessarily possible when we were in the brick and mortar building. We are still deeply committed to this, and we very much believe and promise that kids are still going to get the best possible education in this new remote space or hybrid space or wherever we land by the end of the year, because that's what we do. And it really is because the mission is at our core. This is not just a job to most of us, it is a purpose, and we care a lot about your kids being as well, if not better, prepared for next steps than every other kid that's out there. So we continue to commit to that as we move into the remote world. I also want to just create some clarity between what we did last spring and what we are going to do this fall. And I think that's important because last spring was a complete experiment with really kind of all of the guardrails just thrown off. And there were things that worked and things that absolutely did not. And we are very appreciative as we go into a fully remote year this year to have had that experience. And here are some of the things that we have learned about and will change. So one, in the spring, we had asynchronous attendance. meaning that we were pre-recording things. Students received all of their content at the beginning of the week, and they could kind of appear or not in classes. It was a little loosey-goosey. That didn't work for a lot of students, as many of you probably experienced. And so we are moving to a fully synchronous school approach this fall, which means we do expect students to be present for each lesson. And those lessons will be delivered live by teachers, and are also going to be delivered to smaller groups of students. So all of those things are changes that we've made based on, frankly, some stumbling blocks that we hit in the spring. The second thing is optional versus expected participation. We are absolutely expecting that our students are engaged in every class. So we're expecting cameras on, we are expecting responses in the chat and with mics off. And again, we have smaller classes to help facilitate that and enable teachers to hold that bar. I also mentioned earlier, we had big modules with end of week dates in the spring. We are not doing that this fall. Instead, we are doing synchronous classwork every day that is expected to get done during that class period. And we also recognize that there are students that are going to be caregivers at home, that are working, that are doing things that are also exceptional during this exceptional time. And we will be flexible for those students. We are still recording and those types of things, but realize that for most students, it's actually much more supportive to be synchronous in smaller class periods or class sizes this year. And then we were in the last spring, obviously, towards the end of the year. And so we did a lot of review. We focused less on support and new content and really on review and just finishing the year strong. And that is not the way that we will approach a new school year. Students are going to receive new content that's appropriate to their grade level, and we will be much more supportive with many of the systems that we've traditionally had to get kids through the year. And we'll speak more to those in a little bit. So, big picture, we are 100% in this together. I'm super grateful for all of you that are on the call tonight. We are going to need to be partners in this throughout the year because it won't be easy, but I do think it will be fun, and I know that we've got it. I also think that the affirmations that are up there are important for us to collectively remember as a community because we aren't going to have it all figured out. We are going to make mistakes, and we do have control over the way that we respond to those mistakes and those moments of no control. And that's something that we are going to have to be pretty intentional about modeling for our students as well, as they experience a lot of things that normally would be pretty set and really clear and might be a little bit murkier this year. So really glad to be doing this alongside you all. And I am going to pass it over to the one and only Scott Franzlau to talk to us about some ops.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to get to talk to you about operations and student engagement as well. But first, I just want to say I'm just closely monitoring the attendees list because it is a total thrill to see so many familiar names popping up, families that I've known for a year or maybe 5 years. You have all been in our hearts since your students left us in June or late May, and everything Ellen says is true in terms of us trying to create the most intentional, great year as possible for you all. This slide here is a little bit about my path that has taken me to DSST and to Byers. Also a little bit of my family. We're totally in K-12 education in every way. My wife on the right, she's a social worker in a DPS school where my children attend as well. And they're both, the younger one over there in the bottom left, that's Vasa. He's just turned 5 this year. And then in the upper left, that's Bjorn. He's about 6.5. So they've been best buddies, pretty much doing e-school together. And I have nothing but empathy for everything that everyone's been going through who's on this call. And we're going to just try to get it as right as possible this year for our community. I also have the privilege of introducing these 3 amazing people. You're here today because of them, whether it was registration, laptop pickup, communications. I'm literally texting Bailey how many people are in this call because it's so exciting because she did so much to get you there, to get you here tonight. That means so much to her. And if you have, so you've worked with all these women. Mara Cruz is the newest member of our team. And if you've worked with her, you just know what an incredible person she is. And Kathy's back again, and now she's got those 2 adorable boys. And she's twinning them in the outfits, which is my favorite thing to do as well. So this is an awesome team. Okay, some school home communication stuff. We are using Flyer the whole year. You won't need a different program, I promise. So we're at about 90% of families have verified that they're in Flyer, and that's fantastic. It is really, really equitable. It translates into all the languages. You can download the app or you could read it by email, your choice. And we're also going to be really thoughtful about the volume of communication this year to make sure that when you get something, it's important. It's not entirely redundant, and you should read it. So please do read those flyer notifications. Computer distribution, if you're on this call, I bet you've picked up your laptop because you're clearly engaged. And we're at 92% complete. I mean, it's extremely exciting. Excited for our 1,000th laptop, hopefully tomorrow, to be picked up. And we're almost at 100%, which is phenomenal. If you know anyone who hasn't picked up their laptops, please remind them tomorrow is the last day before the first day of school. So tomorrow, 11 to 3 p.m., please pick up their laptops. There's going to be one more pickup for all families to be aware of. We did everything we could, but we could not possibly have all content supplies ready by last week. We will have 2 dates, middle school on the 3rd, high school on the 4th of September. We're widening the day to be an 8.5-hour day. And that's where you're going to just come and pick up everything else that you need for the first day, for the first trimester of school. A little bit about our schedule. The first 3 days are different. As a reminder, this is what the schedule looks like. It's the same start date as the whole year if you're a middle schooler or a high schooler. And then we've allotted 7 hours of our regular school day time to be for one-to-one conferences. And we'll talk about that in a second. But of course, also that Teams logo is there. That's where your students have to be to get into their classes. And just a reminder of what the regular school day is going to look like. These are the times here posted again. We're going back to having an early release again on Wednesdays. So that the whole deal with Friday in the spring, that's a totally 2019-20 thing. We're moving beyond that, and we're back to a more regular DSST weekly cadence, but with a shorter day. First 3 days, this is what we're prioritizing: relationships with advisor, relationships to within advisories, and within content classes. Every student's going to get to go to their content class once in the first 3 days and be able to find out who their teacher is and who's in their class with them. And as well, we're going to go slow in the beginning to make sure that everyone has the technology access and skills to navigate their schedule for the first full day on Thursday. A little bit on those one-to-one conferences. They are an advisor-student conference, so not a report card conference. That is a parent as well. They are intended for an advisor in this artificially distant situation to have the chance to really connect with their advisee and start a great relationship. We know it's going to take time. It takes time to build trust, and so we really prioritize that in these first 3 days because we know it's going to be supportive of the social emotional health of all of our students. And again, on Thursday, for high school, you're starting at 8:30 and the new schedule starts. Schedules are loaded into both Google Classroom. Dean Akeem Kelly sent out an email about that today, and they're also in Infinite Campus at this point. Okay, a few more things on student engagement, starting with our Dean team. Akeem Kelly is coming back for his 2nd year. If you haven't met Mr. Kelly, he's a former DSST graduate from Montview. He's an incredibly committed, dedicated dean. He's so committed, he's taken on senior planning committee. He was an advisor this year. He loves our kids, and he's trying to make his role as student-facing as possible. And we're really excited for his 2nd year at Byers. And Natalie Jung, she comes from Montview previously, so she has Prep Academy teaching experience, and she's already proven to be an incredible dean for her team. And she's now, so she's our Prep Academy dean, Natalie Jung, and we're so excited to have her. Advisory is focused on these 3 things in 2021. There's a morning call every day. So there's still that daily seeing of your child by their champion, their advisor. And it's also where we're going to facilitate morning meetings and also just make sure students are caught up on the news, the morning news. There will be periodic check-ins similar to the one that we're starting this week throughout the year. And then advisors are still going to be the main person who reaches out to you both by flyer and any other method that you work out with your advisor for communications. We have 10 common classroom expectations that we're aligning 6-12. They are informed by our spring experience. They're also informed by our imagination of what an amazing synchronous classroom would look like this year. And so they will be posted on our website so that, because we want you as parents to know about them. We're going to go over just a couple of those in the following slides. Again, attendance, just to reiterate what Ellen said, very different than the spring. We are taking attendance in every class, and we will have robocalls so that you could be alerted to whether your student was in class or not when you thought they were. And we are doing that because we know that to engage our students is going to require them to be present in class where they're going to actually get to do their work. And we're really excited for this shift from the spring to the fall. All right, so dress code. Well, there's no uniform, of course, for high school, but there's also a much more different dress code. We're not going to be managing what students are wearing beyond that they are decently dressed. So the following dress code is pretty blunt and pretty basic, and it sort of speaks for itself. We are excited that it's also like a progressive dress code that's inclusive of students having choice in what they wear. And of course, the messages that they explicitly share through their clothing, such as what it says on their shirts, of course, is something that's still a school matter. But we are excited that students have total choice in their dress code or their dress. Cameras on is a really important expectation. And so just to be clear on what we're talking about when we say cameras on, it is not cameras on 100% of the time, but it is at 2 specific points minimum. One is at the beginning of class when attendance is being taken. As teachers are getting to know students, seeing their face is critical. If you've ever worked with people on a call, I'm sure many of you have, like if you don't know what someone looks like, it's kind of hard to work with them, no less teach them. So that's a really critical thing. Secondly, our teachers, we trust that they are educational experts and they are going to plan lessons for times when they want cameras on for any number of reasons with intentionality. And so for those times, they will cue students to have cameras on. And having said that, students always have the ability to communicate that they have a need or a reason why they don't feel comfortable in a given moment turning their camera on. We want students to feel empowered to do that, just like adults do when they're on calls. And teachers have discretion about following up. And a one-time deal where you don't feel comfortable having your camera on is not a big deal. That's not an incident that necessarily needs follow-up. But we also will follow up if it becomes a pattern or if it's particularly surprising, just out of care for a student. Okay, interventions. So we're going to go over our 3 historic interventions. College prep is back, including in senior academy, and it is there for support. It is not punitive. It is there completely as an advisee problem-solving process that is minimally, if at all, punitive, and really about getting at the root of what's going on. We have expectations for work to be done. We know you expect your children to do the work that's expected of them, and it's there to help them meet deadlines and be as responsible as possible in remote schooling. Mandatory tutoring is something that's going to come a little bit later in September, and as well as the parent notification system, TBD, at that time. And Refocus, there is no equivalent of Refocus, 6th through 12th grade at Byers in remote schooling. We, of course, have an intentional framework for how to address disruption, conflict, incidents, but if there's no equivalent and no punitive system at all of Refocus. Okay, just a quick thing as a parent, one area that we want to do better, and we heard this from feedback from parents, is just being able to have a pulse on how their child is doing. So you'll get those daily attendance notifications. You will be able to monitor Google Classroom in ways that you will learn more about soon. And then of course there's advisory family specific communication. And then additionally, like there will be a form of college prep notifications. Parent portal is of course the greatest way to know academically how your child's doing. And we also will have progress reports that are individualized and sent out every 2 weeks, which is a big change from the spring where we didn't have that. Really excited, student government is coming, it is back. It's our 2nd full year of having a fully built out high school. And you can see there's already so much leadership. Andreas Faust is running the show, which is incredible. And we're starting right away with senior elections and soon thereafter with 9th through 11th grade. And last, again, like we did a deep analysis of where we were successful, most importantly, where our students were successful in Tri-3 with eSchool. And a critical element that really we know separated us being, okay to good to great is the ability of parents to support their children at home. And so I know that very well as a parent. And with two things, if you have topics that you want support in as the new eSchool begins, please reach out to me through my email address there. And then also, if you have solutions to those common remote school parenting challenges, also email me, because we'd love to put you on a panel and be the expert and help us. And that's it for me.
Yay, my turn. Hello. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Ali Serena. I'm the new Director of College Success at Byers. I grew up in Denver, actually Wash Park, and then I went to Pennsylvania to go to Gettysburg College. I spent the last 7 years living on the Big Island of Hawaii in South Kona, so if anyone's ever been there, please let me know. I'd love to talk about it. And I came back to Denver because of these lovely humans in the middle of my picture here. Those are my parents. If you see them at Wash Park with my dog Nugget, please say hi. They're very nice. That's my dog Nugget on the beach in Hawaii. He has a lot to say tonight. There he is with his squeaky toy. We normally walk during this time and he's very confused about what's happening. But these are my schools down at the bottom. I'm working on a master's now, and actually all the College Success team is working on a master's right now. So we are College Success as well. Okay, so I may be new, but my team is not. This is Sarah, Madi, and Julie. They are all exceptionally talented at their work, and they are helping guide me right now, and they're doing an amazing job. Here's their contact information if you need anything. They're definitely holding it down for the team right now, so please let us know if you need something. And I really want to talk through what our vision for the college application process is this year. It's a really, really different year. So our goals for the class of 2021 are that the class of 2021 will enroll in schools with an average graduation rate of 65%. This is a really ambitious goal that's built off of our individual students, and I'm really excited about it. Our next goal is that 100% of students are accepted to a four-year college to create that option for all the students who are graduating from our school. And ultimately, our goal is to find the best fit post-secondary option for every single human on our campus. So it is our goal to make sure that they are all going exactly where they need to be next year. COVID has created quite a few opportunities, if you will. So we right now are, we are working on applications in fall of 2020 to make a decision in spring of 2021, and then attend in the fall of 2021 on a planet that we don't really know what it's gonna look like. So that being said, it is our job with students right now to create as many options as possible so that when we do get to that situation, we have options available to us that may be different than what we expected we might need this fall. So I'm asking students to create a lot of options, be really bold with their applications and get creative, and also to apply early and often, really. So, and then we're gonna ask students to do early action and early decision where it makes sense for them, because that's gonna give them the best possible option of getting into college. So that means that we're pushing huge push up front with application process, and we're really gonna seek support from families this year. So this is probably the most common question I'm getting right now is like, what's happening with SAT? We know that our students were supposed to take it this spring, and now we're not going to be in school in the fall for now. And ACT and SAT tests are being canceled nationwide. I think that's really important for us to remember, because sometimes it feels like it's just us, but it's not. It's the entire country, and colleges are opting into test optional as a result of this. So colleges understand that students haven't taken these exams and are therefore looking at other parts of the application more closely. So the opportunity we're seeing here is to prioritize different parts of the application. So this year, we're gonna take letters of recommendation really seriously. Our teachers have already been working on that. They're really putting in the time on those. We're working really hard for your students to paint the best possible picture of who they are, these lovely humans. And we're putting a lot of energy into college essays this year. So those are gonna be a really big deal for college applications, because they're gonna be looked at much more closely than they would have been if students had been considering the test as well. So please support us in those two efforts. So internship, we will not be putting students into buildings. So health and safety are our top priority right now. That's the most important thing for us. So we are not going to put students into organizations, but this has actually created a really cool opportunity for our students and our team to explore career opportunities in other formats. So Sarah Sonnenblick and Julie are actually working really well together to kind of connect internship and senior project in a way that we haven't really done before, and really use junior year to gear up for that senior project during their senior year. And I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really great. And the way we're exploring some career opportunities in an online format might actually provide students with an opportunity to see more broader experiences, which is a really cool thing. And finally, College Seminar is not going anywhere. We are going to make sure that we are giving kids their exposure to opportunities early on. So College Seminar, the really cool opportunity that's come out of this is that we are now able to be network aligned. So we are working as a network to provide the best possible content for students, and really focusing in our content to make sure that we're giving students exactly what they need early on in high school. So I think that's all my slides. Yep, okay, thank you, bye.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Menduke. I'm our Associate School Director of Instruction. I'm really excited to be able to talk with you all this evening, and really honored just to be a part of this team and to serve the families that we do. A little bit about me before we jump in. I am originally from Los Angeles. This will be my second year at Byers, and first year was a little out of the norm, you could say, with a global pandemic. Besides that, perfectly normal. I went to school in San Diego, where I got my bachelor's degree in history, and then I came back to LA to get my master's degree in education. Really enjoy the beach, which is something that I miss greatly, especially in the summertime here in Colorado. Enjoy golf and some good wine. That's actually a picture of Crystal, my wife, and I at a good winery in Oxnard, California. My wife, Crystal, who's pictured there, is a director of special education for the Strive Charter Network. So we are both involved in education and in figuring out the new landscape of remote learning. Lastly, those are my dogs, Jeter and Judge, on the left. Great, so I think the three biggest questions that I've received over the summer and leading us into the school year have been around: what does the curriculum look like? Are we gonna have homework? And what will grading look like for remote learning? So I'm gonna talk about all three of those tonight. First up, curriculum. I think something that I'm really proud of, especially to Allie's point, as we are moving away from ACT and SAT this year, our AP classes are maybe even more important now than ever. So I'm really excited to continue with all of our AP course offerings. We have not eliminated any of them. We've had continuously really great passing rates for all of those classes. So we'll be continuing to have those at the high school level. Another thing I'm excited about, and I'm obviously biased as a member of the Byers team, but man, we have just some of the best teachers that I've ever been lucky enough to work with. In the spring, you may remember that a lot of the content that our teachers were delivering to students was network managed, meaning that our teachers didn't have a ton of say into what went into those lessons. This year, that is not the case, and our teachers kind of are back in control and have full ownership of those lessons, which I think is just going to be so great for our kids. And is also really going to be great just for that one-to-one connection that our team does so well. And I bet you if you asked our team what's more important, the content or the relationships that you build with students, I think that is, without a doubt, they're going to tell you those relationships are built through that content that they're delivering. So really excited about that. And then to Franz's point around cameras on and synchronous learning versus asynchronous learning, we're really excited this year to roll out really what we're calling semi-synchronous learning, where there are times where there's going to be lecture and note-taking, but there are probably a lot more times where there's going to be group work and individual diving into content and curriculum. So really excited to mesh those and find some synergy there. When talking about homework, I think the best way to kind of frame this for this school year is that we will continue to have a high bar in regards to homework. And at the same time, that bar needs to look different because this school year is drastically different. So what that's going to look like for us this year, our guidance for our team and what our teachers are committed to is that for literacy, social studies, and history, we'll have about 30 minutes a night per homework. What's not listed there, and this is just an error on my part, is that we will also have that option available for our AP classes. We know that those AP classes have a very rigorous and extensive test at the end of the year, and our teachers are still committed to making sure that our students are able to pass those tests so they could receive that college course credit and be able to graduate quicker and save all of you money for having to pay for that tuition in college. So I think why that is so important is, you know, a big part of our mission at Byers is really being able to support the whole person and the whole human. And after a 6-hour day on the computer, it's just not feasible for a student to go home and have hours of homework each night where they're staring at that screen during that time. So that 30 minutes a night recommendation, it's recommended that our teachers and the guidance that we're giving our teachers are that they're collaborating with one another to make sure that if one class is giving 30 minutes a night of homework, another class is not. And this is going to average out, meaning that some nights in a ELA class, you may have 0 minutes of homework, and the next night, maybe you do have a full 30, but our goal is to limit the at-home screen time outside of the synchronous class sessions. A lot of that's going to lead to a targeted by need homework rather than a one-size-fits-all. So not every kid needs to have the same exact homework assignment. Where does a student need extra practice? And we'll assign that extra practice to that student. And lastly, if I'm a math or science teacher, I may be looking at this saying, well, how will my students get that extra practice? Or if I'm assigning an essay, how will my students have enough time to get to that essay? Coaches, instructional coaches will be working really closely with teachers to figure out when is the best time to assign that homework and how can we collaborate with grade level teams to make sure that there's not hours of homework each evening. And lastly, when we're thinking about grades, I'm a firm believer of this, honestly, every school year, but probably now more than ever. Grades are super important, and they're not the most important thing. I know that when I look at our instructional team and when I look at the structures in our track record of success in terms of instruction and learning, the learning will happen. I have no doubt that our kids are going to learn just so much this year. And at the same time, it's also really important that we're focusing on their social emotional well-being and that we're focusing on the trauma that has been kind of thrust upon all of our students and all of you all as our families. So while grades are super important, our teachers this year also have a really big focus on connecting with students and making sure that students feel known and valued while they're in our classrooms and hopefully eventually back on our campus this year. I will say, having said that, if you remember in the spring, about 80% of students' grades in the spring were based off of only participation. That is not the case as we enter into the fall, into our new school year. We are upping the rigor bar in conjunction with that focus on social emotional well-being. So we are trying to do both of these and find a really nice synergy between them. There's going to be a much stronger emphasis on proficiency this year, roughly double the emphasis on proficiency. So, you know, while we want to make sure our students are doing well, we still owe it to our students and to you all as our stakeholders, our families, to make sure that we're giving our students the best education possible. This is my email, so please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about instruction or curriculum, or really anything. And to Franz's point earlier, if you have ideas, please reach out. I am not pretending to have all of the answers here. I don't think any of us do. So please reach out with any great ideas that you have or any questions. And this email address will also be at the end of tonight's presentation as well. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. If you go to the next slide, I'm Amy Green. This is my 6th year here at Byers. I'm the Director of Special Services. Just a quick introduction. I'm a proud Blue Gold from University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. I taught English for many years before becoming an instructional coach here at Byers. I love hiking and hanging out with my family and traveling. And then if you see the little girl in the pink helmet, she has a very unique connection with Byers. She was literally born the day that our high school opened. So surprise, water breaks, first day of school, can't be there. So, you know, she's great now and in classic style, always gets her way. So that's a little bit about me. This is my Exceptional Learners Leadership Team. So my unique role on the team is specifically around our multilingual learner programming, or sometimes it's called in other places our English language learner programming. And I'm also our gifted and talented programming admin. Ashley Morris-Hobbs directs our mental health services and our 504 programming. Stephanie Wise is a director of curriculum and instruction for intervention and specializes in our special education case management and our cross-categorical programming. And Andy Glasgow is also a director of curriculum and instruction for intervention, and his focus is around special education instruction and also intervention practices. So we've been spending a lot of time this year in TLI. We always want to prepare for our exceptional learners, but we know that our exceptional learners are especially vulnerable in a remote learning space. And so we've spent even more time than we typically would to ensure that we know what are the plans of our students, that our teachers are feeling really prepared to welcome our students back and to be able to support in the best ways possible. So we've had 13+ hours of professional development around supporting our exceptional learners and really just helping to get them ready, our staff ready to support students when they join us on Monday. We are also really committed to hearing from the experiences from Tri-3 of like what worked and what didn't work for families. And Ellen and Scott and Stephen all mentioned some different spaces that we've already heard and made adjustments that hopefully are going to support our exceptional learners as well. So just some kind of broad overview of some of our specific programming. DSST Byers will continue to operate with an inclusion first model. Just like in-person learning and remote learning, some services for IEPs will be inside the gen ed classroom, and those will be through accommodated or modified materials, co-taught supports, and support specialists in those classrooms. Outside of the classroom is also an opportunity where students might get their services through individualized instruction or special services. And all IEPs will continue to be served to the greatest extent possible, even in remote learning. For our multilingual learner services, we have all of our teachers are trained, either currently trained or within 2 years of being trained to be ELA E-certified, which means they are trained to support our multilingual learners in our content courses. And we also focus as coaches to support in understanding the data and how to ensure that our multilingual learners have access in the classroom. We are making one really exciting shift, I think, this year with our multilingual learner programming, and that is that our English language development courses are going to be co-taught in most spaces. So in composition and in world history and in US history, we are going to have push and support to be able to just deepen that programming even more. In Gifted and Talented, the advisors are our main managers of the Advanced Learning Plan, or ALP, and that will continue in the same way that we've done that in the past. They will also receive input from the Gifted and Talented lead and other content teachers. The main goal of an Advanced Learning Plan is really around engagement through either like a passion area or post-secondary planning. And so this is a great place where the work that our students in our Gifted and Talented programming, the work that they do with that college success team really has great overlap there. And finally, we are going to continue to support our students with the 504 plans. If your student has a 504 plan, they are going to get an email from Ashley Morris-Hobbs by the end of, and I can't see that last part and I can't remember the date. By the end of the week with some more kind of relevant information around the Section 504 in remote learning. And that will also include your child's coordinator and case manager, which is most likely your grade level dean. Go to the next slide. So if you have individual questions about your students' plans, please reach out to the person on my team who is the owner of that programming. So one more time, my name is Amy Green, and I am for our multilingual learner programming or gifted and talented programming, Ashley Morris-Hobbs for our 504 or mental health services, Stephanie Wise for our cross-categorical programming, or Andy Glasgow for our mild mod special education programming. Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone. I guess I'm the old guy on the block. This is my 8th year at DSST Byers, so I couldn't be more excited, more pumped for the year. And it's definitely athletic activity-wise, it's going to look a little bit different. But I think the biggest thing for high school is that there still are going to be some opportunities for athletics, which is pretty exciting. So as you can see, just a quick kind of overview, and basically what we've done is we've really just followed the guidance of Colorado High School Athletic Association, CHASA, and DPS. So we're not kind of doing our own thing. We're just 100% aligning with what, you know, the state of Colorado is also doing. So you can see, instead of having your 3 normal seasons, CHASA has split them into 4, A, B, C, and D. And then you can kind of see where the sports that we offer fit into each of those seasons. Those have also been condensed a little bit shorter. There are some different game restrictions as well. So like, you know, for example, basketball usually plays 19 games. This year, they're only playing 13. And as you can see, season D is actually going to go into the end of June, possibly even early July when we think about state playoffs and stuff like that. So kind of take note of that if you're planning vacations or trips and you know that your student plays boys volleyball or girls soccer, to definitely take that in consideration. There is some restricted off-season training that can happen. Basically, DPS has said no indoor training, and there are some limits on the size of teams. And some of our teams, frankly, have been taking advantage of it, and some of them haven't. And we're totally okay with that. I think it's kind of more based on a coach's preference, on a player's preference. And so you may see like girls or cheerleading has been doing a lot of off-season training, but boys soccer hasn't. And that's really just, I put that ownership on the coach and whatever they're comfortable with. So that's really what athletics looks like. There's a ton more information on the website if you want to kind of get into the weeds of it. There's also a great CHASA article that you can read that we've linked to as well. So that's athletics. Now let's take a look at clubs. So the big part is that I would say 90% of our clubs are going to transition just seamlessly online. But there are going to be a handful that just don't. So I do know, I've talked to the robotics team and kind of based on what the setup is with robotics and the competitions, it really just doesn't make sense at this point to try to do something virtually. So they're saying, let's hold off, let's wait until the spring when we can actually do this thing justice. And if you've been a part of the robotics team or you know anything about them, I mean, they're one of the best teams in the state of Colorado. And so when their leaders say this, I listen. Like they are the expert when it comes to that. So I really have followed their lead. Just a kind of a shameless plug, we are still looking for a speech and debate coach. And so if you know anyone out in the community, I think some of the best coaches that we've found have honestly been parents or community members. And so please email me and let me know if that's something that you might be interested in or you know someone who might be. And then just kind of a timeline is our plan right now is to kind of roll, you know, as many clubs as we can get approved the week of September 7th. We're going to kind of accept proposals on a rolling basis. So as teachers, as students apply for clubs, we'll say, yep, sounds good. Let's get it rolling. And we'll send out registration hopefully next week with the clubs that we have approved and just kind of keep adding to that over the years. And so if your student is interested in a club, I posted something on Instagram to the school's account the other day. And then I've also sent an email to all the students with a club proposal form. And I'll keep sending that. I'll definitely pester the students to get stuff submitted. I know teachers are doing it as well. So we are going to do virtual clubs and they'll use Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom for the most part, as far as that's concerned. So that's kind of where we're at right now. we are going to be holding off meeting in person for any clubs, even if it does kind of follow state guidelines, where DPS is really recommending that no kind of after school clubs meet in person, and they wait until that kind of October decision for in-person learning. And so we're just waiting on further guidance. But if you have questions, please email me. Would love to talk to anybody that wants to get involved or just has questions. All right, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you to everybody for sharing. We're going to move into Q&A, and so you're welcome to post questions into the chat. Stephen is our best moderator, so he will kind of moderate for us here and help us figure out who's answering what. And then if you have specific questions for your student or your family, I've got contact information up here. If you want to reach out directly by email to folks, we are trying to turn around questions in 48 hours or less. And if you're asking something specific in the chat, we will respond directly to you in the chat if it's just kind of a one-off for you right now as well.
Great. Looks like we have some questions. First, Hamdi's question, is this program recorded and shared with parents? It will definitely be recorded and shared if any parents were not able to attend today. Franz, I think there's a question for you in here around how often the portal will be updated. So I'm assuming that's an IC related question.
Yeah, but I bet that might be grades. Maybe you'd want to take that one, Stephen?
I think it's a grading question.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so for grades, the goal here is that we are updating grades on a weekly basis. Coaches will be checking in with their teachers every single week. And we'll also be doing gradebook audits to make sure that gradebooks are up to date. So in the spring, I think that was a miss on our part. And I think that we could do definitely a better job of getting a little bit more of a rhythm. So the goal as of right now is that we have weekly updates. There's a question here. How should we go about scheduling an appointment with the student's advisor during the first week? Franz, you want to take that?
Yeah. Well, I hope, I don't see the question, so I can't speak to the person directly, but I hope that your advisor has reached out to you. And so like the door is open to two-way communication. And I just encourage you to let your advisor know, that you would like to spend, you would like some time with them. We don't have like a one size fits all for the entire school around first week, because there's just a range of where families want, when and what and when they want their communication. So please just reach out directly to your advisor. And if you have any issues with that, or if you don't know that advisor, just let me know and I can connect you with them right away.
Right, there's another question here. Ellen or Franz might be the best to answer. Are there any other meetings that we as parents specifically need to attend within the next 2 weeks?
Short answer, no. Again, your student will have a one-on-one with their advisor next week. And so I would encourage you to like have a pre-conversation potentially with your student about questions they might want to ask. So that's a little bit more of a useful space for them. And you're probably in the same place they are, so you could sneak a peek in there. And then the only other thing that is coming up is back to school night. That is not in the next 2 weeks, but it will be in the next 3.5, and we will get that date out to you all pretty soon.
Amy, there's a question in here about the Wednesday A and Wednesday B schedule. Would you be able to explain that?
Sure. So instead of having really significantly short classes, the decision at the network was to toggle the two classes. So basically A is going to be like periods 1, 3, and 5 would meet that day. And then B weeks would be periods 2, 4, and 6 would meet those days. I know that we've been having just some kind of syncing issues with Infinite Campus, so that might be why the period times are not exactly lining up. But I will make sure to connect with Molly about that too.
Great. I could answer the next couple of questions. There's a question about how testing will look and then also about test corrections. So I'll just answer those together. We are still undergoing just about all of our interim testing that we do, whether it's MAP, or other tests. We're also incorporating a couple of new platforms this year that we're really excited about. That's going to give us some more in-depth data for our students. To answer the question in short, how will testing look? I think the short answer is just very different. We are still figuring out how to best operate a school-wide test from a remote setting. So there's going to be a lot of kind of learning on the fly here, but we are still holding our students accountable to those testing processes that we traditionally do. And in classrooms, so like the tests that our teachers are creating, we will still have formative assessments as well as summative assessments, both of which will have an opportunity for test corrections based on grade level. Those might look a little bit different, but those will be shared with students in the coming weeks.
There was a question a long time ago about Flyer. Flyer is for families, not for students. I did double check that with Bailey Manning. And then I think that person also said something about not receiving something. If you do have a Flyer question, you can send it directly to Bailey Manning. And she is the person who will make sure that you can sign in again or verify again and move from just email to the application on your phone.
There's a question if there's going to be prom this year. Does anybody have a positive answer for that? Because I would love that answer to be yes.
I mean, the shorter answer is we don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
But are hopeful.
being spring of 2021, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. So we absolutely hope so. Yeah, but don't know.
Great. The next question on here. If a student will miss a class for a doctor's appointment or they're going to be out sick, who should we contact?
I can answer that. So we are going to have literally the same on your end, how you have communicated absences. We encourage you to do the exact same thing. They will be marked then. Teachers will see it as they pull up their attendance in a given day and see, pre-excused absences. So unless I jumping on too fast, it's all about communication, and we will still mark absences or excuse absences the same way. Was there a second part to that question that I missed?
Nope.
How will they make up the work or no? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So what that is we actually ask that you send it to Byers High School attendance. You certainly can CC their advisor, but ultimately for our attendance team to imagine our attendance team is the one that actually updates Infinite Campus, not the advisor. It's good for the advisor to know, but the attendance team is the one that marks it as such. So I'll put that email address in the chat in just a second so that you know where to send attendance communication.
Great. There's another question here that is really the million-dollar question. Is there a way to prevent kids from playing games or looking at social media on their computers during school? If there's one singular way, I don't think we have found it out just yet, but I will say a big reason that we are asking students and really requiring students to have cameras on is so we can do a better job of tracking that as teachers and as leaders on our campus. We really want to make sure that the work is rigorous enough that it's going to require our students' attention throughout the class period. That's not to say that there aren't going to be instances where a student checks their Instagram or hops onto a game, but our teachers, I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to be able to stay on top of that and make sure that our students are doing what they should be doing during those synchronous class times. Okay, let's see. There's a question in here about math assessments for 9th grade. We are not doing placement assessments for 9th grade math. We're looking at transcripts and placing based on those transcripts. The best person to reach out to for that will be Kareem Khalil. His email's not on here, but if you email me, stephenmenduk@scienceandtech.org, I could connect you. There's a couple of other questions in here that I could attempt to answer. There's one, is there a way parents can know when students' grades are not aligning with teacher expectations? Our real goal here is that we are really over communicating with families. So teachers should be reaching out pretty consistently if they are seeing gaps in learning or gaps in attendance or gaps in effort, whatever that may be. So I think the best way here, the best answer is more than enough communication, as well as the question that was asked earlier around updating the portal. Our teachers are going to be updating that portal on a weekly basis. So we're trying to make sure that parents and teachers are really aligned so we understand exactly what is happening.
Yeah. Stephen, I can hop on there too. I think the other piece of this is that we're using Google Classroom consistently across all of our classes this year. And our network is working on a way to print out progress reports that align to the Google Classroom assignments that I think are going to give parents a much more specific way of understanding how students are doing. And that will hopefully be a little bit more timely and accurate than I think sometimes Parent Portal has felt. So we're hoping there's like 2 ways to kind of gauge how your student is doing. One is through Parent Portal on a day-to-day basis, and then once every 2 weeks, a more comprehensive progress report that's actually synced directly with their classroom assignments that will come to you directly through their advisor.
Yeah, and just to stamp, those progress reports are bi-weekly, so you should be receiving those twice a month, which I think will be really useful for us.
Did we get a question about schedule and how can students know? I don't think we did, right? Just really quick, there's 2 ways. I'm looking at a student schedule in Infinite Campus right now. So it's been later than typical, which is a symptom of the summer and the situations. But Infinite Campus is updated now. Students can check it. As well as our Senior Academy Dean, Akeem Kelly, sent an email to all students in high school today, telling them they could also go into Google Classroom and see their schedule because of like the synchronicity that Stephen just mentioned, how we're using it so much as well.
That's a really good question about parents having access to Google Classroom. You don't have access in the sense that your email is aligned to Google Classroom, but you do have access in the sense that you can definitely feel free to ask your student to check out the Google Classrooms. If a student says there is not a Google Classroom, we have a Google Classroom for every class that the student is in. We also have a Google Classroom for advisory. So if you want to see what's going on in advisory, all of those exist for every single class, for every student, grades 6 through 12. So I think that would be the best question to ask. Ask your student to kind of check in on how those classes are going. There's also a question here about science labs. Science labs will be run more often than not on Wednesdays, on the days that we are really not having a ton of new content that is delivered. Those will be kind of like our lab days at the science level.
Stephen, there have been a few questions about what testing will look like and how test corrections will work.
Yeah. I could get into specifics for test correction. We rolled that policy out today with our staff. Hold on, let me pull it up on my end so I could speak super accurately for us. I think number one, just to clear out, the desired outcome for our test corrections is that all students have an opportunity to show their most current level of mastery of any content that they're given, whether that you get that right on the first time or you have an opportunity to do that afterwards. So that's kind of like our grounding principle. For the middle school policy, students can earn up to 50% of the missed credit back for thorough and accurate test corrections for both summative assessments, so larger end of unit assessments, and formative assessments, those that are given throughout any given unit. And that 50% can go all the way up to a score of 80%. So for instance, if I receive a 70% on my formative assessment, I can get that grade up to an 80% through doing test corrections. At the high school level, it is the same. Those two numbers, you can get 50% of the credit back with a maximum score of 80%. Labs will be virtual. We are, over the next few weeks, building some science kits that students will be able to pick up on the 3rd and 4th of September, which Franz referenced earlier. And that will be the real part of the lab that's not virtual, but in terms of being in person, we will all be virtual for those labs. students do not necessarily have to use a DSST computer, but we would ask that they log in on that DSST computer at least once before the school year starts, so we can just ensure that your student has access. We're trying to keep track of all of the families that do not have computer access so we could support those families. So that would be really helpful just to sign in. It looks like that might be all the questions.
All right. Well, we appreciate you all being here. We're also a little bit over time, and know that we threw a lot of content at you, and there was actually some extras in high school based on just a little bit more programming that we offer to our high school students. Again, I know Franz mentioned this, but we are partners in this. If you have questions, suggestions, ideas, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are not pretending to have all the answers for what it looks like to operate in a remote space. And we know that a lot of you are also probably operating remotely. I know on our middle school call, one of our parents was giving us tips on like how to operate Teams to set up calendars for students. So we do want to know those things. We are learning as quickly as we can and also doing a lot of things. And so would love any support or just like thoughts and questions that you have to push our thinking. We are going to do this together this year and are very glad to have you all as partners. Please continue to email us directly to reach out. We are here for you and are looking forward to working with you across the year. So again, thanks for being here tonight. This will be recorded. We'll have the link in our next family newsletter if you missed something or we talked too fast. And just super excited to kick off the year. Thanks for being here.